The world of football is full of quirky tales, interesting stories and wonderful trivia. However, in this era of fake news, it's important that one is able to decipher between the fact and the fiction of what is reported. So much that's said of players, managers, teams and owners is simply made up. Yet once the lie is out there, it will often snowball. Jonathan Swift once wrote that falsehood flies and the truth comes limping after it, planting the seeds for the phrase, "A lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on." In the case of these myths, that's certainly the case. Many are widely believed and regularly repeated by commentators, pundits and analysts, all of whom are expected to be figures of knowledge within the game. Here are 7 footballing myths that people actually believe. Denis Law relegated Manchester United. While it makes for an interesting story that Manchester United legend Denis Law sent his old club down to the second division, whilst playing for crosstown rivals Manchester City, this simply is not the case. It's true of course that Law scored the only goal of the game in a 1-0 win on the day in which the Red Devils' relegation was confirmed, but the results of Birmingham City and West Ham United elsewhere meant that even victory for United would have seen them relegated that day. Serie A is a defensive league. Serie A went from being considered the best league in the world throughout the late 1980s and almost the entirety of the 1990s, to being considered a dull, defensive and relatively poor league for the last decade now, further weakened by accusations of corruption. Whilst it's true that the quality of the league has dropped, 3 Italian Champions League finalists between 2006 and 2016, compared to 9 between 1988 and 1998, the other claims are largely made up. The last few seasons have seen predominantly end-to-end games in Serie A, a similar number of goals to the Premier League, and plenty of entertainment. Ryan Giggs could have played for England. England's golden generation of Seaman, Neville, Ferdinand, Terry, Cole, Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Owen and Rooney were a team blessed with genuine quality all over the park. All except the left flank of course, where central midfielders such as Scholes and Gerrard were often pushed out to. One man could have fixed all of this, Ryan Giggs, but the Manchester United star had the nerve to be Welsh. Born in Wales to Welsh parents, the idea that Giggs snubbed England for Wales is nonsense. 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football. Picture the scene. Through a bright start to the game, quick incisive build-up play and an eye for goal, your team marauds into a 2-0 lead. Only for the commentator to ominously remind you that 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football. But is it? There's really no reason to believe that that's the case. The theory goes that with a 1-0 lead you will always go for a second goal, but with a 2-0 lead a team is unsure whether to go for a third or hold on to what they've got, thus making them vulnerable. Clearly, however, this is a flawed logic. Every week less fancy teams who take the lead in a game cling desperately onto a 1-0 lead, rather than pushing for a second. Meanwhile, many teams who take a 2-0 lead push on and score more. Red card for the last man. Another footballing myth which belongs largely, but not exclusively, to the commentator. When a risky foul is committed, you will often hear a commentator inquire to his co-commentator, "Was he the last man there?" Likewise, supporters will often exclaim that the offender was the last man, in a desperate plea to see the referee brandish his red card. The fact is, whether or not he was the last man is frankly meaningless. Being the last man is not and has never been a red card offence. The NASL was a retirement league. The North American Soccer League, aka the NASL, in its original incarnation between 1968 and 1984, is a league which seems to have been rewritten by history. It's talked about today as a retirement league, often mocked and considered to be of poor quality. The truth is far from that. The NASL featured a number of world-class players, many of whom were in fact in their prime in that time. Upon their arrival in the NASL, here are the ages of some footballing stars. Giorgio Canaglia, 29, Hugo Sanchez, 21, Trevor Francis, 23, and Peter Beardsley, 20. Even the NASL's older arrivals were still far from past it. Johan Cruyff was 32, Pele was 34, Gerd Müller was 33, and Franz Beckenbauer was 31, all still good enough to grace any team on the planet at those ages. Beckenbauer is someone who has spoken out against this rewriting of history, commenting, "We had players from 14 nations in New York, but we weren't a circus troupe. We played highly technical and successful soccer. We beat Hamburg, Lazio and Atletico Madrid." Decisions even themselves out. When a ref fails to award a stonewall penalty to your team, or spot that the opposition striker was 5 yards offside before sending the ball into the roof of the net, we're constantly reminded that these decisions even themselves out over the course of a season. But do they? Of course not. And why should they? There's such a thing as luck and misfortune. Just because a decision goes against you one week, there's no reason to think it will go for you the following Saturday. Anyone who's supported a lesser or smaller Premier League team will tell you that decisions do not even themselves out, with referees often nervous to give big decisions against the big teams. So next time the referee makes a shocker of a decision, a note to commentators: these things, as they so often claim, do not even themselves out. So that's it for our top 7. There are plenty more footballing myths that people actually believe, so let us know some of yours in the comments section. And don't forget to like and subscribe to HITC 7s.